some suspicious or malicious event happens on a endpoint somewhere out there in the world. At that point, it's going to get sent into our operations center. This is literally the view from our operations center, right? So we pretty much work from a queue, highest priority event, oldest timestamp, right? Because everything that we do is latency sensitive. We want to be as fast as possible when triaging and responding to attacks. So as events come in, they hit our table. Analysts are basically provided with, hey, what customer organization is this? What endpoint is it on? What activity are we observing? Is it a antivirus type of alert? Is it an EDR type of an alert? What is the threat actor doing? And our analysts are able to come in here and triage these and start doing investigations to try and, again, answer the question. Is this benign and nobody needs to care about it and we can suppress it and move on? Or is this malicious and we need to take remediation action and response actions to eliminate the threat and get the threat actor out of the environment? From there, when you kind of get to the investigation piece, and Dre, you're better suited than me these days to actually speak to this, but can you kind of walk us through what we're looking at here and how you might do some investigation at this point?
Yeah, man. So there are some detections that even EDR and managed AV and all those things require manual investigation, right? Human contextualization. So what you're looking at on the left is our EDR's ability to go and task particular things, right? So we're looking at the event log directory. And what we've done is we've gone and collected particular logs. And then on the right screenshot, we're deploying some tooling to try and extract value from those logs. Now, obviously, this requires an analyst to understand and be trained, which they are. But it also understands them to be able to differentiate a false positive, a true positive, right? So we don't just tell folk, hey, run a tool and report everything. That's not what we do. We extrapolate, we abstract. And so what you're looking at here is Chainsaw, great tool. But without a human operator that understands and contextualizes, you're going to get a bunch of junk. But it gives you the answer of what happened in this incident. What was there that the adversary tried to do? We see them do silly things all the time, like try to burn logs, try to evade us. You can't evade us because we know how to go and use all kinds of different telemetry.
Yeah, so much of it when you're in the chair doing the investigations and doing the analysis is you are literally building out a timeline. And so your EDR alert, your antivirus alert, your firewall alert, like whatever thing that triggered your investigation is just the starting point. It's a piece in time where something interesting has happened. And now it's your job as the forensic analyst to start building the case, right? So we want to go to court and we want to get a guilty or not guilty verdict at the end of this thing. And the whole piece of this is just building the timeline of what happened. And so by being able to not just get an alert, but pull event logs, pull other forensic artifacts, check other items on the system, they browsed to this website, then they downloaded this application, they ran this application that installed this malware. Once the malware was installed, they moved over to this other machine. From that machine, they were able to steal administrator credentials. Now they're on the domain controller. And it's really about piecing together that entire timeline to understand what happened. And so you can correctly gauge the severity. But also more importantly, unless you know the timeline of events, you can't confidently remediate. If you don't know how they got there and what they did with their access, how are you going to be able to clean this up successfully so that the attacker loses that access going forward? And that's why it's so important to go with, like, whoever you go with, your SOC, your operations center, your security partner needs to understand that, just validating the alert and sending it over to me is not going to provide any value. Understanding the scope of the incident is really where the value comes from there. This is the kind of the last stage of this, right? So we've done the alert, we've done the investigation. What does this look like on the partner's end as far as, okay, what am I going to see when I found a true positive compromise? And for us, it's really about two things. There is a written report on what actually happened. So what type of threat are you dealing with? What endpoint was it on? What organization is it in? Which of your customers is it in? What are the remediation steps? What are the technical findings? And really what's important here is that report's there and it's great. And if you have the time to get some additional context or just genuinely interested in what happened, you can go and read that report. But what you're looking at on the left is the written report. What you're seeing on the right is probably what actually matters to you. With every report that we send out, we take it on our behalf at Huntress to put in the remediation actions and the plan that needs to be followed to actually kick this threat actor out, to kick this threat out. And you can see in the bottom right there, just a big green approve button. So the assisted remediations there in the top, if there's files to delete, if there's isolation that needs to take place, if there is AV scans that need to be ran, if the host needs to be rebooted, once you click that approve button, the Huntress agent just does those actions for you. You don't need to worry about removing the malware. It's just going to do it on your behalf. And then sometimes if needed, we'll add manual remediations, which could be things anywhere from, hey, we don't control your firewall, but if you have a firewall, consider blocking these IP addresses, some extra steps or manual steps that we say, hey, in addition to the assisted remediations, you might have to do these things. Long story short, your tier one service desk tech, your technicians, you don't need to be security minded or even understand necessarily what's happening inside the text of the report to be able to click the approve button and remediate the threat almost instantly.